Hey everyone, I have been trying to get a video out for days. We started filming on Sunday. Today's Tuesday. We wanted to get some more cleanup done, our fall cleanup that we didn't get finished in the fall. And I was able to finally source some spring flowers I wanted to plant in the concrete urns out front, but the soil is still frozen in there. So I tried to finish it up yesterday to get the pansies and the hellebores in, but couldn't even get a shovel or even my hand into the soil to plant those things. So I thought, recently one of my viewers had asked me to do a video on all of the stormwater management practices that we have incorporated into our landscaping, because she had mentioned she had some surface water issues they had to deal with, and before she started talking to contractors, she wanted to hear my experiences, my opinions. So I'm going to do a tour of different areas of the garden, and while in those areas, talk about any stormwater management practices that we have put in place. So for example, today I'm going to go all the way up to the top of the property, and we're going to start at the top and go down. So today I will talk about why we have put some stormwater management items in place up at the top of the property, what we have put in place, how is it working, and some things just to be on the lookout as far as your township might be concerned. So come garden with me. Let's do a garden tour of the top rain garden and some of the stormwater management practices we are using up in that location. Okay, I know it's not beautiful, but I'm at the top of my property right now, this field that we own, and it's very, very squishy. Not sure if you can see the standing water there. The snow has been melting for weeks now. We haven't had rain. Thankfully, heavy rain in a while, and it's still really squishy up here. Now that's surface water, but it's also runoff. I know my viewer mentioned that she had some surface water problems. If your soil is not free draining, you're probably always going to have surface water, standing water. I mean, there's not much you can do about that, especially if your yard is flat, but my yard is sloped and we still have a lot of standing water. And I'm up here because I'm showing you that house there with its huge second structure, and this house here. I don't want to really zoom in and get in people's privacy, but that's where most of our stormwater comes from. Unfortunately, their yards are extremely sloped. We get all of their runoff. Eventually, it makes its way down here. Big puddle right there. So what we've had to do, and we didn't know that when we first moved in, why we were getting so much runoff. I mean, in Pennsylvania, I cannot speak to any other states, but in Pennsylvania, there has been in existence, showing my infiltration trench, there has been in existence since 1978 stormwater management best practices, it's called. So what that means basically is you're not allowed to send any of the water that hits your property into the stormwater management system of the state. So you're not allowed to send any of the water from your property into drainage ditches, into sewers. Mostly the sewers is what they're worried about. Plus they also don't want to pollute streams and rivers and creeks. That's great. I'm all for that. The problem is most townships in Pennsylvania really never enforced those stormwater management laws. So that's why those two houses above me have never had to do anything about their stormwater management, even though those are newer builds. My house is the newest build. It was built in 2014. So all of the water from their gutters comes down here. When we bought this house, when it was being built, we had to, I guess, I don't know, my township all of a sudden decided to start enforcing those stormwater laws. Our gutters all go underground into an infiltration trench underneath our front yard. There's an overflow pipe. If that overflows, it does go out into the street. You know, there's only so much water you can keep on your own property. But, you know, none of my surrounding neighbors had to do any of that. Now, the two houses on either side of me, I think, were probably built before that law. So nothing you can do there. But the two houses behind me were built after that law. And they should have had their gutters going into an infiltration trench, especially for that addition. But they don't. So now I'm left dealing with stormwater runoff from 4 neighboring properties. We've dealt with that in a lot of different ways. This stuff is not cheap. So just be aware of that. There are some things you can do yourself, like the small rain garden at the bottom of the property that we have on the side of our garage in the dry creek bed we did ourselves. We put a French drain in front of our boulder retaining wall ourselves because we paid $1,000 to have somebody else do, and he just cocked the whole job up. That French drain never worked, so we ended up redoing it ourselves. There is a really good YouTube channel out there called The French Drain Man. He is in Michigan, and if you're going to do your own French drain, I suggest watching his videos and do it like he does. It's the only way a French drain should be done, and it's the only way it's really going to work. That's how we did our French drain. We even bought the materials from him. That French drain drains so fast, it has saved us in tropical storms from the water getting too high back there and actually becoming a problem for our foundation. We don't flood in our basement, although we did the first year we moved in, and having that French drain there and the dry creek bed has really saved us, because in 2020, 2021, I think even 2022, we had several tropical storms and hurricanes come over this part of Pennsylvania and drop tremendous amounts of rain. I think maybe I'll put a video up so that you can see that. I think I've already done that, but I'll do it again. So let's go over here now and look at the infiltration trench and talk about that. So the reason why we put the infiltration trench in 2020, we had Tropical Storm Isaias, and it was horrible. That's the video I will show you. And we had not yet addressed any of the runoff from up here because it did not become 100% evident that this is where the most of the water was coming from. So this infiltration trench was professionally done. It is 50 feet long, almost 50 feet long, 3 feet wide, 4 feet deep. It was not supposed to fill up that fast, but this winter with all the heavy rains we had, it filled up pretty darn quickly. It was supposed to have 2 400-gallon drainage boxes installed on either end underneath the ground, concrete. For some reason, the contractor did not do that. When I asked him why, he said, well, you're not going to need those because this infiltration trench is so big. Yeah, well, we probably should have. And that's one of the things I wanted to make you aware of. Always double ask, triple ask why somebody's not doing something when they told you that they were going to in an estimate or a proposal. Now, some things you require a permit for. And here, if we would have put 2 400-gallon concrete containers on either side of this, we would have need permits. I feel like a lot of contractors don't want to do that. And that maybe is part of the reason why. And then we have it planted on either side with some 9-barks, because 9-barks will be able to handle that kind of water. Now, they're also deer candy. We also have a meadow seeded up here. To kind of help the water seep in more. I mean, once the meadow establishes, it'll be left over the winter. It'll be very thick. It'll slow down the water a little bit. We've planted some river birches. We lost all of our ash trees up here, so we've been slowly planting things that can handle that kind of wetness. We've got red twig dogwoods over there. Do not be fooled and think that plants are going to solve your problem 100%. I remember my neighbor asking me one time about planting a willow in their backyard because it's so wet. Well, first of all, you do not want to put a willow really close to your foundation. their roots will seek out the water in your plumbing. Just checking on my prog viburnums. These are evergreen viburnums and I love them. I think I might have to get some more of these for underneath my crabapple out front there. They are deer resistant, but when deer are hungry, they will eat anything, and you can see the tips have been eaten a little bit. But anyway, don't think any plants are going to actually just dry your yard out. They will tolerate the wetness. Some of them can even stand and tolerate bog conditions, but they're not going to dry your yard out. Especially because, you know, if your yard's that wet, you're probably going to have to plant an awful lot of them, and then you won't be able to enjoy your yard. Just checking things out here. So the deal is the infiltration trench, if it overflows, then comes down here to the rain garden. Really wet right here too. So you can kind of see where it's darker, where the water is draining to. It's draining here, going down into the rain garden, although the path that it's supposed to take is over here. But again, everything up here has to be able to tolerate really wet conditions. So I think we have an underground spring here, which makes it even wetter. So again, we have the hollies, we have acarus, we have Joe Pyeweed over there, we have button bushes, we have turtle head, we have irises, some goldenrod over there. I'm trying not to step on it because it is really wet there. Calycanthus, red twig dogwoods, summer sweet. Lots of echinacea in here. We have swamp azaleas that will be getting moved. I discussed that in a previous video. We have some more 9-barks here in the actual rain garden. We have, again, more plants that can tolerate that really wet soil. Again, there's a summer sweet. There's 3 summer sweets here. We have some panicum grasses, which can tolerate really, really wet soil. We have 2 Ilex glabra shamrock for some evergreen winter interest. They also like boggy conditions. This is another calycanthus here. This is called Simply Sensational from Proven Winners. And then we have 2 Winterberry Gold, which don't have any berries on them, so you can't see them right now. And then up on the berm, we have some more hollies. And we do have 2 pinpoint blue and gold false cypresses planted there, which are not at all wet tolerant, but these are up on the back of the rain garden berm, which never really gets wet because it's raised up off the ground, should be fine. We have Pachyra. That's what this green is. It's an evergreen, really fast spreading native that likes wet soil. We have some groundhog chokeberries back there to stabilize the slope where any heavy runoff might erode the soil. So we just have a bunch of plants planted in here that can handle the wet soil. They are not going to dry it out at all. We also have these beautiful Arctic Sun red twig dogwoods. I've showed those before. Their stems are so pretty. We also have, you can see that down there, that's a drain. Just in case, which has already happened, the rain garden overflows or gets too high. To stop it from overflowing, the water will enter the drain. It comes under the berm here, right in front of the crabapple, down into the stone pit, which does have 2 drainage boxes in it, and then that drains out to the street. Which technically we're not supposed to do, but 10 years ago we didn't know that, so that's where those drainage boxes drain. And further down, our French drain meets up with that drain, takes the water down that way too. So here's our French drain in front of our retaining wall. There is drainage rock actually under the decorative stone. You know, it's not very quote-unquote decorative at the moment because we haven't cleaned out all the leaves and stuff, but I'll put the link to that French drain man Hopefully he's still doing videos. I don't know if he still sells the products, but there's an agricultural grade drainage pipe underneath this stone that has more pipes than anything you could get. More pipes. It has more drainage holes in it than anything you could get at Home Depot or Lowe's, which is why it's so fast draining. This, I guess I'm just going to keep going. This herb garden is one big seepage pit. About 12 inches down from the top of the soil. This is very, very free draining soil, almost complete compost. Underneath it is a seepage pit with drainage rock that has a line coming in that drains the soil from underneath our deck, or drains the water. So I don't know if you can see those stones in there. That's a seepage pit right under the edge of our deck there. So it fills up. Those stones help the water drain quickly, and then it drains through another seepage pit that comes under here and goes into the herb garden. Do these seepage pits work? Well, the herb garden's pretty quickly draining. Our soil here tends to hold on to the water no matter how many seepage pits we have, so I'm not sure that I agree that seepage pits are the way to go. I just don't know. Again, I mean, if you have poorly drained soil in your yard, I'm not sure a seepage pit, you'd have to make your yard one big seepage pit, to be quite honest with you. So we also have really wet here, so I'm gonna have to walk here even though I don't want to. Our yard is really steeply sloped right here, which is part of the problem. And you can see, I think, just beyond this stone basin here, there's another drainage pit in there, drainage box with a pipe. But our neighbors have had their yards swaled to catch the runoff from the hill, so that that water from their swale, just right next to that holly, comes right into our yard, which is why our basement flooded a month after we moved into the house, and we had to have this drainage pit. Now this one has a pipe, goes all the way and hooks up to our sump pump pit and our sump pump drainage area at the corner of the house there. And the whole reason why we kind of built this berm here off of our retaining wall, because our retaining wall, 60 feet long. The retaining wall is great for keeping water away, but it also doesn't allow it to drain in front. So if you're thinking about retaining walls, just keep that in mind. Retaining wall ends, you can see right at the end there. So when the water would come off their swale, overflow our drainage box, the water just came right in here. Couldn't even step off our deck. It's always so wet, and it still is. So that's why we built this really big berm off the end of our retaining wall, to stop the water from coming right in to an area of the backyard we, kind of walk in a lot. We also have a drainage box here, which keeps getting covered by leaves. It's another thing. You've got to keep your drainage areas clear, otherwise they don't work. So there's the drainage box. It drains the water coming off our second retaining wall and any water that comes down here. And any water that comes off the back of the wall here. We have these stones at the back of our retaining wall to kind of stabilize the soil. The water goes into the drainage box. There's a pipe that goes underneath this berm, drains into the dry creek bed. So let's go take a look at that. So the pipe from that drainage box up top there comes down across here, drains into the rain garden. The dry creek bed, which you've all seen, drains into our rain garden here. Now our yards in this neighborhood are very narrow. So there wasn't a lot of room here for a really big rain garden. It should have been bigger. That's why we have the drainage box there. So that when this rain garden fills up, it enters into the drain. It does still overflow. Comes over this way. There's a drain running along under the grass here, and it empties into this dry creek bed and then out to the street. We have all that drainage rock down there is because the drainage pipe goes right under our driveway. So our front yard here is one big seepage pit, so to speak, infiltration trench. You see that white PVC pipe, and this white PVC pipe here is so that we can, yes, pay for the privilege and have that inspected and make sure nothing's blocking it. And then there's pipes in here that drain. If anything overflows, it goes into the drainage ditch at the bottom of the property there. So I ended up anyway talking about all of our stormwater management practices instead of doing an actual tour. But just so you think you're getting a tour, our Castle Keep hollies are looking great. Planted 3 of those last summer and I really love them. I love the dark green foliage. All of our arborvitaes are doing well, although I do see we just sprayed deer spray. To me, this looks like it's been picked a lot. Arborvitae are definitely deer candy, so just keep that in mind. So this dry creek bed is one of the things we did ourselves. We hired help, our lawn guy, who we no longer have. He helped us dig this, sourced the rock for us. So my husband and he did that. Again, we have another little bit of a berm here to, again, keep any water just coming straight at the foundation of the house. The water, it does what it's supposed to do here. It runs along the edges of the bed into the dry creek bed. So I'm pretty sure those are everything that we have done. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, pay attention to your township ordinances. You do not want to be doing anything illegal. You don't want to be doing anything you should have had a permit for. Yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, let me know. And hopefully we'll be back to regular content soon. Thanks, and see you in the next one. Bye.